Hi, I'm Samir Jain. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve today. Our president has renewed his early criticisms of the Federal Reserve's interest rate hike, saying he is not happy with the fast pace of the Fed's normalization plan. And this pattern has been reported as breaking with tradition and questioning the independence of the Fed. While it is, at least amongst recent presidents, unusual for a president to opine on monetary policy, well, this has been a most unusual presidency from the start. And while Trump's criticism of the Fed are good for generating headlines, I think they risk drawing attention away from more important matters at the central bank. So one worry people have about Trump's comments is they call into question the Fed's very independence. But I think it is critical to remember that central bank independence is a somewhat amorphous term with different speakers relying on different definitions. It is, however, a useful concept when independence refers to the Fed conducting monetary policy without regard to political considerations. I guess this means that the Fed is an independent institution insofar as it sets policy in reaction to changing macroeconomic conditions, not in reaction to changes in the legislative agenda or electoral prospects. What it is not, and neither should it ever be, is that the central bank independence is that the Fed is fully divorced from all other public institutions. No, it should be subservient to the people. On the policy front, the president seems to suggest that the Fed should wait on raising interest rates until inflation comes back. But what threshold Trump has in mind when he says comes back is anyone's guess. But inflation has been increasing, and while this morning's CPI's release had month-over-month inflation below expectations, the Fed's preferred inflation metrics has moved up to their 2% target in recent months, and the 10-year forecast put out by the Cleveland Fed last month shows long-run inflation expectations have also increased recently and are now slightly above the Fed's 2% inflation target. So these inflation data have been moving up, and the Fed has been increasing policy rates, as we know, which suggests that monetary policy has not become overly restrictive. And if you see posts reacting to stock market developments, folks point out that while monetary policy was too tight, it has recently moved towards a more neutral and appropriate stance. Of course, one can agree or disagree with this. But remember, looking at just interest rates is insufficient to judge the actual stance of monetary policy. And for the astute people that are monitoring the Fed, the president's comments should be largely ignored. It is far more important to pay attention to conversations occurring, and one that is of more immediate concern is about the Fed's operating framework for executing monetary policy. And the current framework, which pays banks an above market interest rate on their deposits that are held at the Federal Reserve to keep the effective Fed funds rate within the Fed's target range. I mean, this was created during the financial crisis, and the Fed is still learning about this new framework for setting interest rate policy, and has already needed to tweak the framework once. Recently, if you follow commentary, Chair Powell has suggested that the FOMC will be exploring it further still. So the important challenges facing the Fed and its conduct of monetary policy are the ones that we need to keep an eye on, and they certainly deserve much more attention than do the president's tweets and rants. That's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening in. Bye bye.